Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Starring the Jet-A Jerry O'Lace, Rocket J. Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
If you ever get the chance to travel, don't visit the twin provinces of Applesauce-Lorraine, which lie somewhere between France and Baja, California. Not that the scenery isn't breathtaking, it is. In fact, too breathtaking. For the borders of Applesauce-Lorraine are ringed with row upon row of Limburger lilies. Actually, this is a blessing in disguise. For in days of yore, warlike nations intent upon invasion were repeatedly repelled by this natural barrier. As time went by, nobody had enough fortitude or enough sinus trouble to get by the Limburger lilies. Progress came to a halt, and that is why today Applesauce-Lorraine exists as it did back in the 16th century. But one thing changed. Yesterday, good King Wenceslaus sat on the throne. He did until his half-brother Francois Villain paid a visit.
Happy birthday, half-brother. I have a gift for you.
It is not my birthday.
I give it to you anyway.
And he did. Applesauce-Lorraine had a new ruler, a greedy ruler who emptied the treasury and proceeded to live in a manner to which he was unaccustomed. There were the rat races in the sewers of Paris.
6,000 francs on Jean Valjean.
The slave markets at Tangiers.
Give me a dozen to go.
By the time he returned to Applesauce-Lorraine, he was flat broke. He resorted to the most evil way of raising money known to man, taxation.
But, Your Highness, we already have income tax and sales tax.
Then we'll have thumb tax and carpet tax.
Under the yoke of heavy taxation, the people fell to their knees, but one man held out hope. Citizen Philippe Mignon, medium rare.
You know what they did in France when they had this problem? They called the 3 Moosketeers.
Alas, the only musketeer who answered the plea was Athos, who was getting on in years.
You want my advice? Pay the taxes.
But he is a tyrant.
Pay the taxes.
He thinks Claire de Lune is a girl.
That is different. We fight.
Hey!
But he couldn't fight without the rest of the musketeers. Porthos and Aramis. And as everyone knows, when musketeers retire, they go to live in Colorado.
A ticket to Colorado, monsieur.
Sorry, I only have one ticket left.
Where to?
Frostbite Falls, Minnesota.
It was close enough, so Athos was on his way. But let us get there before him, for Frostbite Falls, as if you didn't know, is the home of Rocket J. Squirrel and Bullwinkle the Moose.
Almost lunchtime, Bullwinkle.
How about a barbecue in the backyard?
Good idea.
I'm in the mood to shish a few kebabs.
And when it came to shish kebab, Bullwinkle was a master. With one hand, he blithely tossed onions, tomatoes, and kebabs of meat into the air. Then with the skewer, he parried and thrust like an expert swordsman, deftly impaling each piece in its proper place.
Toupee!
All this did not go unnoticed, for at that very moment, Athos arrived in Frostbite Falls.
Sacre bleu, there is only one person who can handle a sword like that.
The old musketeer's eyes weren't what they used to be.
Aramis, Aramis, long time no see.
What did you call him, mister?
Aramis, you are Aramis, aren't you?
Yes, I are a moose.
You must have mistaken us for someone else.
Porthos, you have not changed a bit. A trifle smaller, perhaps.
Before our friends could gather their wits,
And the kebabs, which I dropped.
Athos explained his mission.
But we're not.
I will not take no for an answer.
Well, it looks as if we're off on another hair-raising adventure. We'll find out in our next episode entitled Foiled Again or Don't Fence Me In.
I agree that crime doesn't pay, but in the case of Jack and the Beanstalk, it did. For as you know, Jack shinnied up the huge stalk, snuck into a giant's castle, and made off with a goose that laid golden harps, or something like that. Well, sir, Jack chopped the stalk down and lived happily ever after with his ill-gotten gains. Or did he? The scene is a castle somewhere in the clouds. The time, 20 years later.
I know you're hungry, son. Well, so am I. But there isn't a scrap of food in the castle.
What about the wheat fields?
You ever try getting wheat out of clouds? We're up in the air, remember?
Oh, if only Papa was still with us.
Listen, he wasn't good for anything except saying fee-fi-fo-fum. He could say that pretty good.
Can I say it?
Say it later. Right now, you've got to take the pet cow to market and sell it.
That's not a cow, Mama. It's a llama.
I don't care what it is. Go and sell it.
Being on the obedient side, the giant's son did as his mother asked.
Hey, what you got there, High Pockets?
It's a llama.
So it is. I'll give you 5 magic beans for it.
I'd rather have money.
You can plant beans. You can't plant money.
It made sense, so the giant returned home with the 5 magic beans.
I was hoping you'd bring back money.
Well, one of the beans has a picture of Lincoln on it.
There was naught to do but dig a hole in the clouds and drop the beans inside. The next morning, the giant awoke and looked out of his window.
Oh, darn. I was kind of hoping a beanstalk would have grown.
It did, but not up. Down.
Why, that stalk must be 50 miles long. Climb down there, son. See if you can find us some food.
As I said before, the giant was obedient, also a little clumsy. But let us journey ahead of our falling star to where the beanstalk ends, right outside the magnificent manor owned by the son of the original Jack and the Beanstalk.
Jack, honey, New York's on the phone. They want to order 50 dozen golden harps.
Oh, don't tell me. Tell the goose.
Goose!
I know. I got like 50 dozen golden harps for New York.
If you can, Goose, put a trilon on Perisphere on them. It'll be a nice touch.
That goose is acting sassy lately.
Well, all you give him for his work is chicken feed.
Goose feed.
At that moment, the giant finally came to earth.
Creak, cry, crow, cryant. I smell the blood of a pretty big giant.
And with that, Jack ran from the house, grabbing a loaded giant-killing musket on the way.
You say anything, Jack?
Negative. Just a gang of kids playing basketball.
Ah, but although those kids were tall, the one with the ball reached fantastic proportions.
I could have swore I smelled a giant.
Oh, you're overworked, dear. Go take a nap.
Jack did, and this gave the giant an opportunity to peek into the house.
Say, that looks like a golden harp laying next to that fella.
The window of Jack's bedroom wasn't very big, but it was big enough for the giant's hand to reach in and get the golden harp.
Creak, cry, crow, cryant. I smell.
Those dreaded words caused the giant to bolt to the stalk and climb it in record time.
This doesn't look like food, son.
It's a golden harp.
Why couldn't you bring back a pizza or something?
But, Mama, golden harps are worth money, and there's a whole slew of them down there.
In case you didn't know, all mothers of giants are a little greedy, and this one was no exception. The son was sent back down to bring up all the golden harps he could find.
It's New York again, Jack. They want to know what happened to the harps.
Oh, don't ask me. Ask the...
I gave him to the delivery boy about a minute ago.
What delivery boy?
He's a big, tall fella, about as big as Mount Everest.
A giant. You gave the harps to a giant?
Once more, with his giant-killing musket, Jack ran from the house, and this time he saw the giant with an armload of harps scurrying up the beanstalk. But unfortunately, the giant was out of range.
I need someone who can catch that giant.
Luckily for our story, a sorcerer lived in the vicinity.
Of course I can get him. Do you think he might come back down for more harps?
We're all out of harps. All I got left is
a goose? You say a goose lays these harps?
Scout's honor, Mama.
Well, a goose we can eat. Fetch him, son.
The unsuspecting giant came down, probed around the house with one hand, and finally grabbed the goose. That's when Jack and the sorcerer spoke up.
Caught you in the act, you devil. Let him have it, sorcerer.
And the sorcerer handed a piece of paper to the giant, who merely put it in his pocket and climbed up the beanstalk.
What'd you give him?
A summons to appear in court.
You can't catch a giant with a summons. No, I'll never get my goose back.
Yes, you will. I shall climb up after the giant.
Yeah, but that stalk is 50 miles high. You could fall.
Not I. I am wearing a cloak that will enable me to fly.
And up went the sorcerer. Of course, the giant was no fool. When he saw that he was being pursued, he simply took an axe and chopped the stalk down. What happened to his pursuer? Well, the cloak kept him from falling, all right. In fact, to this day, he's still floating around in the air. And that's why you hear so much talk about a flying sorcerer.
with a nose for news, Mr. Know-It-All.
Thanks, Rock. It's also handy for breathing and ornamental purposes. Today, our subject is how to interview a scientist that is working on a secret project. We begin by finding a scientist.
Without a human subject to work on, the experiment is lost. But who would be stupid enough?
Pardon me, sir, but are you a scientist? Point 2 is to be subtle about getting to the subject of his project. If the project is secret, he may be reluctant to tell you. You doing anything interesting lately?
Certainly. Sit right here and I'll tell you all about it.
Let's see. Say, you mind if I ask you about your personal habits, problems, hobbies, and...
Certainly not. I just love to put this electronic ball on Moose's heads. It's a habit, a problem, and a hobby.
Fine. Now what about pets?
I'm glad you asked. My pet. Let's just put him here and put a nice ball on his head just like the one on yours. There.
Oh, yes. Is your current project related to the rocket field?
No.
Is your current project related to the atomic field?
No.
Well, what's the current then? The current. I want the current.
Gosh, Mr. Know-It-All, what happened? Now, how will you remember what the scientist is working on?
Oh, I can remember, Rock. I'm almost certain it is a brain transfer machine. Eeny, meeny, chilly beany. The spirits are about to speak.
Are they friendly spirits?
Friendly? Just listen.
Somewhere in the inner regions of outer northwest Canada, an inventor was at work. And that inventor was Snidely Whiplash. And his invention? Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties.
Well, not exactly. It's a mechanical Dudley Do-Right.
He doesn't move, Snidely.
Of course he doesn't move. That's what this key is for.
Gee, if he could only talk, he'd be the spitting image of Dudley Do-Right.
What do you mean, not talk? What do you think I bought this record for?
Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick. Hello, Nell. It's Tommy this and Tommy that and chuck him out, the brute. But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot.
What was that last there?
Kipling.
Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick. Hello, Nell.
Gee, he looks real fine, Snidely. Real fine. But what are you going to do with him?
Don't you see, Homer? We're going to kidnap the real Dudley Do-Right and substitute the mechanical one.
Why are we going to do that, Snidely?
Because in that way we'll be able to carry forth our nefarious mischief without the real Dudley Do-Right interfering.
So, as the real Dudley Do-Right was taking an afternoon stroll, Snidely Whiplash substituted the mechanical Dudley Do-Right.
Why, hello, Dudley.
Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick.
I'm not Father. I'm Nell.
Hello, Nell.
I just bought the most beautiful hat. What do you think of it, Dudley?
It's Tommy this and Tommy that and chuck him out, the brute. But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot.
What guns, Dudley?
Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick.
Yes, so what, Dudley?
Hello, Nell.
Hello, Dudley.
Come with me, Dudley. I have a job for you.
It's Tommy this and Tommy that and...
And none of your back talk, Do-Right.
Meanwhile, back in Snidely Whiplash's shack, the real Dudley Do-Right was talking.
Oh, Snidely Whiplash, you will never get away with this. For everyone knows there is only one Dudley Do-Right of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Beware of substitute brands.
Come off it, Do-Right. They'll never know the difference.
And these two culprits are trying to smuggle furs across the border. I want you to bring them in.
Hello, Nell.
I've noticed something strange about Dudley. He's more succinct. Succinctness. I like that in my Mounties. Good work, Dudley.
But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot.
Put up quite a fight, did they?
Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick.
I thought so.
Hello, Nell.
What?
They're robbing the bank! Yes, surprising as it may seem, the mechanical Dudley Do-Right was a better Mountie than the real Dudley Do-Right. It always got its man.
much to the chagrin of Snidely Whiplash.
Homer, I think I've created a monster.
So Snidely Whiplash took back the real Dudley Do-Right to the RCMP.
Inspector Fenwick, what you think is the real Dudley Do-Right is in verite a mechanical Dudley Do-Right. Here is the real Dudley Do-Right.
Yes, sir, Inspector. What he's telling you is the truth. Yes, sir, Inspector Fenwick.
Oh, are you trying to tell me I don't know the difference between a mechanical do-right and a real Dudley do-right? Why, this is the real Dudley do-right.
Hello, Nell.
And you, sir, are an imposter.
But, Inspector Fenwick!
Out! Out, the two of you, before I have do-right here throw you in the stockade.
Gee.
Where did I go wrong, do-right? Compose yourself, Whiplash. We'll get to the seat of this problem now. Oh! Oh, the key! I completely forgot about the key. Why, Dudley Do-Right is due to run down almost any time now.
Now, Do-Right, I want you to listen carefully because this is possibly the most important assignment of your career as a mounter.
Hello, Nell. Hello, Nell. Hello, Nell. Hello, Nell.
What's wrong, Dudley? You seem a little redundant today.
Hello, 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 hello. But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Dudley, pull yourself together.
Aha, Inspector! Now you see with your own two eyes that I am the real Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties.
Well, perhaps you're right.
Then tell me, what is this assignment you have for me that is so important?
Assignment? Oh, the assignment! Well, the assignment is to hurry up and put that machine together again. That was the best Dudley Do-Right the Mounties ever had.
Yes, Inspector Fenwick. Yes, Inspector Fenwick.
There is no joy in Applesauce Lorraine, for in our preceding chapter, the wicked Francois villain lowered the people's morale by raising their taxes.
We cannot go on like this. Something must be done.
Something was done. They sent for the 3 Musketeers.
You are the 3 Musketeers?
I am 1/3. My name is Athos.
Athos agreed to help, but not without his comrades, Porthos and Aramis, who years before had retired to a rest home in Colorado. However, through a slight mix-up, Athos found himself in Frostbite Falls, Minnesota, just in time to witness an amazing display of shish kebabbing by one Bullwinkle moose.
I know you anywhere. You are Aramis and this is Porthos.
He not only mistook our boys for his comrades, he insisted that they join him in the fight against tyranny.
Lawrence Tyranny?
Unable to resist the challenge, they soon found themselves facing the border of Applesauce Lorraine.
Hokey smoke, something smells awful.
Those are Limburger lilies, the natural flower of Applesauce Lorraine.
They don't smell very natural to me.
They are an impregnable barrier. The odor keeps people from going out or getting in.
Well, how did you get out?
I had a pass.
Unfortunately, the pass was only good for getting out, not getting in. That's when Rocky pulled out his copy of the Who's Who of Flowerdom, the Weeder's Digest.
According to this, Limburger lilies stop blooming every 24 hours for exactly 10 seconds.
It didn't give them much time to cross the border, but they had no choice. Waiting for the exact moment, they took a deep breath, then made a mad dash. Just when the 10 seconds were up, Athos emerged, Rocky emerged, and Bullwinkle stopped to pick a 4-leaf clover.
Luck is with me.
So was the wind. Bullwinkle was nosed out. Fortunately, Rocky was able to pull him out. 1 hour later, the 3 Musketeers stood outside the castle belonging to the evil Francois villain.
What are we doing here, Porthos?
Francois villain is the only one who can tell us where the king is hidden.
Yeah, but suppose Francois isn't villain to tell us.
That's pretty bad, Bullwinkle.
It's those Limburger lilies. I'm not irresponsible for anything I say.
Meanwhile, upstairs, Francois villain was entertaining his #1 spy of all people, Citizen Philippe Mignon.
So, Mignon, you say that the 3 Musketeers are coming here to spy on me, eh? Oui, and they are doing it. That must be them now. Very well, then we shall give them the big surprise.
And a surprise it was, for when the castle drawbridge was lowered, out rushed a squad of Francois villain's most deadly swordsmen.
Grapes that we are set upon. En garde, mon ami.
So saying, Athos whipped out his trusty sword, or in this case we should say rusty sword. As for Rocky, in his haste, the sword flew out of his hands and buried itself into a nearby tree. It looked like our boys were hopelessly outnumbered and outfought until Rocky, recalling Bullwinkle's skill with a skewer, shouted,
Shish kebab!
That was all it took. The mighty Moose pretended his opponents were shish kebab ingredients and quickly impaled them in their proper places.
Ooh! To pay!
Curses, your men have failed.
Yes, that tall musketeer in the fur coat and crazy hat is a demon with the sword. But I will get them yet.
It was not an idle boast, for Rocky and Bullwinkle and Athos crossed the drawbridge and entered what they thought was the castle's main hall. Actually, it was a bare steel room whose door clanged shut behind them.
I got a hunch Francois Villain is closing in on us.
It wasn't villain, it was the walls of the steel room. Inch by inch, they moved in toward our friends. Be with us next time for Squeeze Play or Glad We Could Get Together.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say...
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible. Get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle?